Welcome to Travelogues, exploring Italy's Cinque Terre, a landscape artist's paradise with artist Pamela Betts. I'm Lisa Martin with Silver Springs Town Center. We're so happy to have all of you joining us, and so happy to have my friend Pam sharing about her wonderful experience in Italy. Pamela Betts is a representational painter living in the Washington, D.C. metro area. She received her bachelor's degree in fine arts at Moravian College, now university, in 1990. Through her love of art, she discovered art conservation and earned a master's of science in art conservation from Winterthur Museum, University of Delaware in 2000. She currently works as a painting conservator in Baltimore. Her work as a conservator allows the close study of the various centuries of painters, which in turn inspires her own work. Pamela practiced figure drawing from a model for many years before more recently returning to landscape painting. Using primarily oil paints. She especially enjoys painting outdoors and in plein air, where she loves the challenge of observing and recording sensations of light, atmosphere, mood through paint. She has been juried into several plein air competitions in Maryland and Virginia, and exhibited her work in local galleries, including Georgetown, DC, Frederick, Maryland, Ellicott City, Maryland, Annapolis, Bel Air, Maryland, and Suffolk, Virginia. She has also had the opportunity to travel to paint more distant landscapes, which she finds incredibly inspiring and educational. Through her meanderings into the landscape, Pamela explores the duality of fragility and force found in our natural surrounds, and shares her responses in paint in hopes of making new and lasting connections with her viewers. Welcome, artist Pamela Betts. So happy to have you, Pam.
Thank you, Lisa. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes. And I will mute because I am in a Starbucks now and there's music in the background. So I'll be muted, but I'm here. Go ahead and take it away.
I'm dressed up a little more fancy because I've actually just stepped aside from a wedding for a little bit, but that's okay. They're going to save a plate for me, so everything's going to work out. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate it. It's so fun to be able to share a great adventure, and hope to inspire everyone listening to maybe do the same someday. And I hope I get to hear your travels too, so that, you know, we can keep sharing ideas and fabulous sites to go. So this past spring, I joined local landscape painter Walt Bartman of the Glen Echo Yellow Barn Studio, partnering with an Italian-based travel agency called Tierno Tours, Tierno Tours, and a group of other painters to the Italian Riviera. And after that long and crushingly horrific pandemic, I was really eager to join and to get out of Dodge. Let me tell you that. And if you're wondering what Cinque Terre is, on the map you can see, kind of relatively speaking, where I'm talking. It's in that little nook at the top north western side of Italy. In that it's actually closer to Genoa, but I don't have Genoa there spelled out clearly on the map. It refers to a string of centuries-old seaside villages on the Italian Riviera coastline, and as you'll see in the pictures, colorful houses and vineyards are built up along steep terraces with, and they have amazing views of the Ligurian Sea. Technically speaking, we really only visited 2 of the 5 of the Cinque Terre, if you know what the Cinque meaning 5 lands. but everything in the Italian Riviera was just gorgeous. We actually started further north. If you can see my cursor here, this is kind of the area of the Cinque Terre, but we started up here in Camogli. I'm not an Italian speaker, and I know I'm gonna butcher it, and I apologize in advance. Camogli, I think that's how you say it. And we went to Rapallo, and we went to some other towns in this area before driving down to Lerici and towns closer to the Cinque Terre area. We traveled by ferry to towns, to a town here, and then we drove, and then we traveled again by ferry along there, and I'll show you more when I get there. But first, just to show how I go about packing, I brought oil paints, I brought gouache, and each needs their own supports and their own paints. And I also did bring some dry materials, some hard pastels. So packing is definitely an adventure, and you're worried about labeling everything to the maximum so that if there's any questions that hopefully they'll call you and won't just throw something out. And of course you have to put it on checked luggage, oil paints. I put big warning signs. These are plant-based oils. And, if you have any questions, here's my phone number, my email. And then, various other things in the suitcase. You can see like a windbreaker, rain resistant, and a big sun hat. So we're off, and here's my fellow traveler and great friend Joan Tico, and we're off to our adventure. We flew into Genoa, and we landed in Camogli in the north there, as you can see in the map, kind of situated up here. And this was our home base for pretty much half of the trip. And as you can see, it's now a fishing visit and a tourist stop, but in the medieval times, it was considered a fairly large seaport. And I looked it up later that the town is thought to be a shortened form after Casa de Mogli, or House of Wives, so called for the wives of fishermen who lived there while their husbands were off at sea. At the edge of town, looking over the sea, is the ruins of Castella della Dragone maybe, built in the 13th century to protect the village against pirates. The castle's name may come from Dragonara, which means the vortex of storm air, to indicate its particular, here it is, this is the building I'm talking about, overlooking the sea. It was exposed to heavy storms and heavy winds. And then this is the kind of the yellow church complex of Santa Maria Santa, and this dates to the 12th century. The castle is slightly earlier, I believe. Oh no, it's the 13th century, but I'm sure that it's on the ruins of yet an earlier castle. And so you can see how charming and beautiful the medieval town is, the early town. So we landed in Genoa. We took a taxi down to this and settled in. And then that very night, I have to say, traveling with Walt Bartman on these wonderful plein air trips is not like your average trip going somewhere. We're there primarily to paint or to draw or to do pastel, whatever your art preference is. But and we get in a lot of sightseeing, we really do, and we get in a lot of great food and wine, and we have a blast. But we're not probably doing as much window shopping and excursions as you might on other trips. We really are there to get a lot of painting in, and we try to do almost 8 hours of painting. We do the morning, we do the afternoon, and then we eat dinner, and then we might even go out and do we'll do a sunset, and then we might even do a moonrise. So it's a pretty long day. So after getting settled in our hotel the very first day, we went out. So if you can see, this is a view of the old city back in this area that I was just talking about, but further on, our hotel is kind of is further in this area. And so the very first day, I managed to get out my gouache as kind of a warm up, looking up at actually at this palm tree right here, and some of the buildings, and I was able to do a little gouache study. And later I did do a study of the old town. It's warming up. It's just getting loose. It's getting your materials out, getting rid of your jet lag, and getting into the vibe and the scene. So I did really kind of like the looking up at the palm tree, but the view of the city, didn't really quite hit it yet. But I'm showing it to you here just to show the process and how it gets going. The next day, oh boy, come on there. The next time the day we got going on a bus, and we went to a nearby town called Santa Margherita Liguria. And Walt first gave us a demonstration, and then we were free to walk around the town. And it was beautiful. It had this more Baroque buildings going on, and again, it's built up on a hill, so you have climb up, and you see these long vistas down to the water. I love these shots of the laundry hanging out the building, these narrow alleyways. It's not all Baroque. It's a mixture of earlier medieval mixed with Baroque, and it's just very beautiful. I was enamored with this scene on the left. And I brought my oils this time. And I tried to paint this beautiful apple orchard blooming in the spring with a view of the mountains and the water. And later I realized I really tried to tackle too much at once. Calm down, Pam, and breathe. And I have to try to keep reminding myself, because it's all so beautiful, and you want to capture it all. But that's when you can kind of make a failure. But I try not to be too hard on myself. I mean, we're out there just trying to experience it and learn about it and appreciate it. And I did, and I got to meet people and talk to people. People are really friendly and come up to you and say, "What are you doing?" And they might not have ever seen anything like that, somebody painting live, or they might have, but maybe not right at that particular corner. So I'm not so enamored with my first attempt, but that's okay. It's a study, and I can do something else with it later if I want to. And it was a great, enjoyable, way to really enjoy some time there. I was able to settle in a little bit more in the afternoon. Sorry, I have this little blue squiggle here. I don't know what that is. I hope that's not too distracting for everybody. But this was in the same town. We was just closer to the sea. And it's a view of a town called Rapallo from Santa Margherita Liguria. And I like this one a little bit better in oils. And so I was feeling like, okay, things are going. We're having fun. But the painting wasn't over yet, of course, because Walt really pushes us to keep going, which is great. Don't sit on your laurels. You got something going, keep going. So I guess maybe I take that back. Maybe that night, after the first night back, after getting rid of jet lag, and we did settle down, and this was the next day. So I apologize. He didn't crack the whip so hard that day. This is the next day, and we went back to the same place, the Santa Margherita Liguria, and I found I just love to walk around with all my stuff and just see what strikes me. And I found this villa, and it was beautiful, Villa Dorazzo. And I parked myself there, and I was enamored with the view of the boats in the distance. And on the top right, that's a painting on the spot in process. I hadn't really blocked in the boats yet. And the second picture is when the painting was further along and pretty much done. I actually had somebody stop by and say they were interested in it and would I sell it, but I hadn't really finished it yet. And and I didn't know where it was going, and I almost didn't want to. Maybe it was foolish, but I didn't really want it to let it go into the world just yet before I had figured it all out. I did take his contact information, but did I follow through? No, I haven't. So I still have the painting, and I even have changed it a little bit in the process. But maybe that's a life lesson for me, that if it speaks to somebody and they want it, I should probably let it go then. But to learn for later. Um, and then in the afternoon, we traveled to that area we were looking at, Rapallo, in that earlier painting, just for a quick visit. And I was able to do this study based on this interesting configuration of buildings on the left. Um, I I may work on this more, but I kind of like its simple abstract forms. And again, I guess when we're out there doing plein air painting at a beautiful site like this, and we're coming onto these new areas that we've never seen before, it's a lot about the process and not so much about the product always. And every painting that we do kind of informs the next one in a way, even if it's a different location. We kind of learn a little bit more about the atmosphere, the air, what the architecture, the plant life. So it's never a waste. It all builds in some way, even if you don't love everything you do. So we went back to our home base, and we did another study that evening. And this is just a study of how this kind of reef, this jetty or reef, with the waves splashing in. And it was a little cloudy. It did rain on us a little bit in the early time here, but it did get nicer. I have another slide that kind of describes the weather a little bit. And here's my friend and fellow painter, Lynn Blake. She was doing a painting at this golden hour, when the sun is starting to set. And it shows you, it's not, we're in the Italian Riviera, but we're there in late March and early April. So it's still a little bit cool. We've got jackets on, and we've got maybe even some long underwear, so we can sit there and battle the wind and the mist of the waves and the rain. But we are also happy to be there, and it's just stunningly beautiful. So no complaints, but it was a little too cold for us to go swimming. um, and this is another slide to show you the temperatures in late March and early April when we were there were about 55 to 65 during the day. And it did rain early on in our trip, but that did taper off. Fortunately, it stayed sunny for most of the days. But we did need to get on and off the ferry a couple times, and that, being out on the open water was, of course, a little cooler. So you see us with our little puffy down coats, and it's still sunny though. So the sun warms you, but the wind cools you. I think this is the fourth day. On our fourth day, we took a ferry ride to an old monastery called Abbazia di San Frutuoso. And I'm sorry if I am butchering that. What's interesting about it especially is it can only be reached by sea or hiking trails, which I have to say, there are these wonderful hiking trails that connect a lot of the villages there. We were a little too busy with our paints and our equipment to take advantage of that, but that's something to keep in mind if you ever want to go explore these areas. I definitely would recommend that, and I may look into that for another time. So most of the buildings associated with the abbey date to the 10th and 11th centuries, and other buildings in the surrounding area date to the subsequent centuries, but only up till the 16th century at the latest. And here's some views of the area once we landed. And again, we are going there to paint. So you have to, get all your supplies ready before you get on the ferry. And then once you get there, start ambling around and taking it in, but pick a spot. Where do you want to set up and paint? Where do you want to spend the next maybe 2.5 hours just looking at the light and studying all the nuances, maybe of the architecture or the plant life. So it was really pretty there, and the light was perfect. I picked this area here on the right, with this trellis of orange and lemon trees. I mean, how amazing is that against these buildings? And here's a picture of me in my very unglamorous outfit, unglamorous but practical, I guess. And in the next slide, I'll show you, on the left is my initial block-in of what I was seeing, and in the middle, the painting a little further carried out, and on the right, pretty much finished. It's got some issues that I think I might have smoothed out, but that's pretty much the painting that I got from that day. And it was, I'll have that painting always as this great souvenir. I wasn't able, we didn't have the time to go souvenir shopping so much, but these are our souvenirs. These are where we spent the time and really got to know the scenery, at least in that local area, and really, visually took in what we could. And so this is a great memory for me that I will cherish. So that night we went back to our area of the hotel, and again I attempted another painting of that view of the old city, and I liked some of it a lot. I later did work on it more, and that's what it looks like now. I tried to keep I kept all of the hillside and the light that was shining on the fortress, the protective castle, but I did try to develop the buildings a little bit more. It's always a balance. You want to keep the freshness and the initial response you have with working outdoors, but sometimes you don't get to finish. I mean, often you don't. The light changes, or the winds pick up, or the rains settle in, and you don't really get to finish it. So this is something that I did try to develop a little bit later. And then I certainly didn't want to give you the idea that it was all just work and no play. We definitely enjoyed the food and the drink and each other's company. And here on the right is my attempt of making of trying to make something with something in kind of a hard pastel, after a couple of these Aperol spritzes that you see my friends drinking over there. And maybe that wasn't the best idea, but anyway, I didn't really finish it. The bartender said he liked it enough, so I gave it to him, and I encouraged him to finish it. Maybe he'd work on it further and develop it. We were all listing a little bit on our way home, but not too seriously. We were just walking. It was okay. And also, here's some of the beautiful settings we had to eat dinner. And Gretchen Sheridan of Tierna Tours is certainly to be thanked for arranging these beautiful accommodations we had. I mean, look at the sunset we got to enjoy. And here's some of my traveling companions. And here's a little bit more pictures of the food we ate. I promise these aren't all my dishes. These are some contributions from my friends that I asked, and show me some pictures of our food. I didn't always manage to take some good pictures, but here's Vanessa, and Bob's taking the picture. You can't see him, enjoying some cannolis, but here's some other things that we ate at that first place we stayed in Camoli. And then some other people foraged outside, and I ate these wonderful things. So the area is known mostly for pesto, just the pesto that we know, with basil and pesto nuts and olive oil and garlic. And you don't see pasta with tomato sauce so much there. It's definitely much more of a pesto centered food, but obviously seafood too. You're right on the sea, so you're going to see a lot of seafood. you have artichoke down here, and your caprese, and oh my goodness, I'm forgetting what this is. You know what this is. The fish that's in your Caesar salad, and I'm having a mind blank. I'll think of it later.
Anchovies? Is it
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And fresh and delicious. It might not be, maybe people are scared of that, but it was really, really good. It was really delicious. Thank you. It's really embarrassing when you can't think of it. So, and you might, they were teasing me because I always had to carry this box. See this flat box that I'm carrying here and here? Well, you kind of have to do that when you're carrying oil paints because, well, you could be not so cheap like me and actually buy a carrier that can hold your wet oil paints. But I was being a little miserly and thought I could just carry them in we used to call them a pizza box, but it's just a box with a lid. But it became a big hassle. And I think I'm going to just have to bite the bullet and splurge on a better wet painting carrier. And we had another problem there a little bit, that with oil paints, you need a mineral spirits as a solvent. Well, you don't really need it, but you need either linseed oil or mineral spirits. But in short, it takes a little time for oil paint to dry. And the mineral spirits that I did use, and that most people in the trip used, that was purchased there, was never ever drying. That was the problem. The paintings were staying wet. So I made this little painting rack in my hotel room, making sure that I didn't get any wet paint on any surfaces on the hotel, because that would be a total no-no. But I managed to be able to put all my paintings out, trying to get the sunlight and the heat and the wind on them. All those things help dry an oil surface. But that was the best I can do. I don't know if any of my other colleagues developed a better system rather than just having a better carrier. That would be good. Anyway, this is the goodbye. Oh, I see myself peeking behind there. That must be a photo that wasn't supposed to be there. We're saying goodbye to Camoli, and with beautiful skies and beautiful sunsets. So I'm just trying to find my notes to make sure that I know where I am. Okay, I do. So this is our last looks at that town, and we're about to drive further south. And here we are. We drove about an hour and 15 minutes south down to Lirici in the province of La Spezia. And this was our home base for the rest of the trip. Here on the map, you can see where I'm talking about. We were up here. We made a day trip to that abbey here, but now we've driven all the way down the coast and we've landed here. And we're going to take some day trips from here too, but this was a beautiful place to stay. Lirici, its origins date back to the Etruscan period. It came under Genoese control in the Middle Ages. And besides its sparkling aqua blue water, one of the main sites is the castle that you see here in the middle and on the left. First founded in 1152, so 12th century. While we were here, I couldn't help but be seduced by some of the water and the boats. And this was a gouache painting that I did with some of the hard pastel on top. I called it a playful name. I called it a floating affair because it just seemed like these two boats just couldn't get enough of each other, and they were bobbling along, kind of loving each other. But I also made sure that I did a lot of exploring. This town, you want to be able to sit and get familiar with one site, but I didn't want to bypass the opportunity to get to walk around. So I climbed up into the castle, up and around the castle, and on the right, I'm looking down to kind of where we were painting. In fact, Lynn, I think if you're listening, you're right around here, and some of the other painters are up in this little nook here. I was spying on you, sorry, but not really, just for a second. But there were some beautiful views from within the castle area and around it. So I was just going to show you some of those really fast too. I love these little alleyways and little vistas through the sea. Every town we went is kind of on a rugged cliffside, so there was a lot of walking up and through these little medieval alleyways and these tightly built buildings of all very colorful. So I loved it. I actually did attempt a gouache of this one on the left, but I'm not going to show it because it didn't get very far. But it was, just was a moment that I remember. The light was, it's always the light, isn't it? It's just the light was just perfect and everything was so quiet and still. Maybe it's something that I'll work on and I'll show someday. This is the next town that we did go to, Porto Venera. And I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong too. I have it written up here on the top right. It's on the Gulf of Poets. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has a picturesque harbor, again with the brightly colored houses and narrow medieval streets. And this is after walking up the hill from the port, and this is on the sides of the castle. Here's a view also from the top of this church that I ended up staying at with some other painters, Susan and Jan. I'll show you them in a minute. And this is the backside of that church. I believe it's St. Peter's of Porto Venere. And here we are. We're in this awesome little kind of quiet spot with this beautiful church. Apparently the striped marble, the darker and lighter color is often seen in this area. And it's early spring, so you have this old tree that's just starting to bloom and bud. And here's Jan Kospum and Susan Zeitgart. Sorry, Susan's over here, and myself. And we spent most of the morning there. And I don't have everybody else's paintings to show, but maybe we should share all their names and you can look them up on Instagram. But they did some wonderful paintings too. I feel a little awkward just showing my stuff, but since Lisa's highlighting me, I'll be showing my paintings. And here's some of the paintings I made that day. On the left is the church. Yes, I didn't paint the dark and light stripes of the church, but I was kind of into that tree. It kind of felt like something Van Gogh would have gotten into too. And these are all kind of studies, though and this is the little side church on the right and the view of the mountains. It was really stunning. I have ended up cutting this painting. I've cut the bottom off, so now it's shorter and it changes the whole thing. Maybe it needed that extra space it had when it was a bigger canvas. I don't know. I always kind of wonder if I did the right thing. I had to put it in a frame. Oh, I didn't mean to go forward. And this other one was just kind of a real abstract, quick study, looking the other direction, and something I'll probably never develop further, but it was just kind of cool and fun to try to tackle. That's part of it. Part of it is just the challenge and what excites your eyes for a second, and can you respond to it with paint? So now we are this is basically our last day of traveling. And these are the two actual towns of the classic Cinque Terre towns. And this town is Manarola. And it is stunning. Oh my God. And again, with the very colorful homes, and they kind of spill down to the water. It's one of the most photographed towns of the Cinque Terre area. And I think it really was my favorite spot, honestly. And you know what I did? This is the last day we were traveling around. I decided I was going to put my paints away. Well, I'm sorry, I did it. I decided that was it. I was just going to go on foot and explore and window shop and just be a sightseer for the day. And I think the others will tell you they had a funny story. Maybe I'll tell you as we go on. But these are this is like the degree of the cliffs that they built the houses on. Isn't that amazing? And the terracing for the vineyards. And I don't know. I have this thing where I just love looking in the alleyways. I love looking to see what the lights do. And this is a beautiful abstract picture right there. I mean, maybe painting it wouldn't even be worthwhile because the picture is so cool. But the play of light on the steps, and every corner is a big steep hill or a steep hill down. Where's it going to lead? Where are you going to go? And then you could have views. I thought this was looking into the sea, but this is just looking down. And this is the same town, but just looking. Now I'm looking on the side. I was just walking on this cluster of houses, and now I've gone and walked around, and now I'm on the other side looking at them. And boy, what a view that was. These are my friends Bob and Vanessa, who I lured into doing lunch with me, and it ended up being quite the thing because there was lines everywhere and we couldn't find a good place to eat, but we sure had some amazing views. And then we left there and went to a very close by town. And I'm going to try it, Rio Maggiore. And this is officially our very last spot. And it was founded in the 8th century by Greek refugees, anxious to take advantage of the naturally rich soil and abundant sea life. But the town that we see today actually dates back to the 13th century. And here are some scenes of it. Again, I'm sightseeing. I'm off duty. I'm not painting anymore. I'm enjoying the scenes of the cats and hanging out and taking a breather and just all the beautiful things. I believe that night this is the group of us to the right, all the painters and spouses that went on the painters to be, I'll call them. And our great tour guides are here on the painter too. There's Pasquale, and where's Gretchen? She must be there too. Maybe she's taking the photo. I'm sorry if I don't see you right now. But here's our group, and here's Walt Bartman and his wife Alex, who are leading us in the paintings. And here's Joan and I, who you saw in the initial slide. We've made it through the trip, and we've had so much good fun. And here's the sunset, and we thought we were saying goodbye, Italy, but then something happens. Here's Joan and I just a couple days before, having so much fun, but then here's Joan and I the day we were supposed to leave, after waiting hours, I think about 7 hours in the airport, hearing our flight's coming. No, it's not coming. It's coming. It's coming. And then it landed from Turin, another flight. Where were we going to make our connection? Well, it didn't matter because the flight landed from Turin, and then it was struck by lightning as it landed. And thankfully, nobody was hurt. And weirdly, I heard that 3 other planes were struck by lightning in Italy that same day. So then I started thinking, is this a thing that they say when they're just behind? And I wasn't sure, but it was a little stressful because, everybody's trying to manage to change their flights. And this is what we received on this piece of paper after waiting in line forever. Instead of a typed out, really official looking switched flight, which was not the next day, it was the day after that. By the way, we got this handwritten paper stub. I'm like, are we really leaving this airport with just this? But that's what we got. But they were kindly set us up with a hotel for 2 nights and the transportation to the hotel and back. So you can't really complain. Was I ready to go home? And did I want to see my husband and my kitty cats and my puppy dog and my friends at home? Yes. But, there are sure of a lot of worse places to be stuck. And I knew that at the time. So we just took a deep breath and took advantage. Here's our mood. We were slightly frowning at first, but Joan and I, my traveling companion companion par excellence and we went, and here's other people we were captives with, other people who were stuck. And Joan and I went, and we did the best we could, and we had a great time exploring Genoa. That's where we were stuck. Sorry if I didn't say. We were trying to get out of the airport in Genoa. The plane was not able to fly, so we spent the next day touring Genoa. And of course I must have taken out the great shot of us eating gelato, which I needed like a hole in the head after eating pasta for a whole week. But we had a great time. This is just to show that we went to a museum. This is Pezzolino's coins that I admire so much. I'm a painting person, but I was ready to see something else, and just some ruins in Genoa and natural beauty up here and a church. And this is just to show that a couple months later, and we didn't even have people that came in from out of town and joined us. But I mean, as far as contributors, I'm thinking of these guys. Wait, where's your wife? Oh, here, Ellen. And that they came in from the West Coast and they showed paintings too. But anyway, we had a group show of attendance at the Yellow Barn at Glen Echo of our paintings. So that was fabulous to be able to have a little reunion and to see everybody's work. And we are all in touch still, and we've made some good friends, and we all hope to do it again. So I've rambled on too much. I apologize, but I'd be glad to see if anybody has any questions or wanted to share anything about the trip. Lisa, should I stop sharing?
Yeah, we can stop the share. And did you say there are some people here who were on the trip with you?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe there's a couple of them. I see Joan and Lynn and Jan and who else was on the trip? I know Alex, Walt,
wow,
Susan, who was pictured in a slide. And then, yeah, I know some other people too, Holly and my friend Gwen. Oh, hi, Gwen. Thanks for coming.
Maybe we can invite them on the screen to say.
Marie, I see Marie. Oh, Bob's here. Maybe Vanessa is too. Sorry if I've missed anybody else.
Lynn and Marissa, or Lynn and Matisse are here.
Matisse, yes.
Lynn,
AKA Rodney. But yeah.
Oh, Libby is Libby. And Walt, here's Walt and his wife.
Yeah, feel free, you guys, if you wanted to.
Hello, welcome.
Tell me how badly I slaughtered names and what I missed.
It was
great.
It was a great, yeah. You took so many great photos, and it was so fun to see your paintings.
Thank you. I should have asked you guys all for yours too, and we could have had a big slideshow at the end.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
Well, thank you for such a great trip. Is Gretchen here? She's not.
You made it. You made it great. So just so you know, but we had a wonderful group of people. Can't beat it. I mean,
I hope if there's some people here who have never taken a trip with Walt before, that maybe you'd be interested in it. It's always a lot of fun,
Yeah, we're going to be going next year, so that's it.
Does anybody else? I mean,
maybe Walt could put in the chat how people can join you for the trip next year, if you'd like to add something in the chat about that. And then who else here? Tibby, was Tibby there?
Unfortunately, Tibby wasn't, but she was supposed to be. If this is the Tibby that I'm thinking of, but I didn't make sure I invited her and her husband because we missed them on the trip, and I know they'll be able to come another time, right?
Yes, we missed you too, Pam.
But you know what? Didn't you twisted your ankle or something right before the trip?
Oh, I just broke 3 bones. But healed, and we just got back from Crete.
Your ankle.
So loved your presentation. Thank you so much for remembering us.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if has anybody else who wasn't on this particular trip been there and wants to share their thoughts.
Well, it was great to hear all these names said again, all the different places where we were and your paintings. I didn't realize you made so many paintings, Pam.
I even made more, but some of them weren't worthy to show.
Impressive.
But that's what I think, that we do these, and it's the process, not the product always, right? It's like and there are souvenirs, like, you know, though I did take a day off at the end. Oh, and that's the funny story that I didn't tell. The last day that I took off in Mentora, I think that was the name of the town, the one that I loved, that I shouldn't remember the name. Okay. Well, other people painted, but then we had to stop earlier than we thought. But I just enjoyed taking a day off. I didn't get into too much trouble with Walt, did I?
I had to take, I mean, you being on the trip, you took care of all of us, so that was great. Right.
Yeah. We did have a lot of, I mean, and I tried to show, we definitely had amazing food, and, you know, Gretchen took good care of us. We had plenty of wine from the area, and yeah. There's always so much more to learn, and there's so much more to do. Sometimes I feel like, oh, we didn't learn enough, but we try, and we're really there to paint, so we have to balance all that. I don't think, I couldn't hear you, Lisa. Maybe other people could hear you, but I. Do you want to write it in the chat and maybe I could read it? Hi, Lynn and Matisse.
Hi there. We joined kind of late. I'm sorry. I didn't even realize this was on Zoom. So I just saw Alex's email and we jumped in.
Oh, sorry.
No, great pictures and great memories.
Yes. So fun to travel with you. All right, wait. Lisa has written something. Let me see my chat. Oh. Oh yeah, there's lots of chats. Let's see what Lisa said. Lisa said, I wanted to invite others who were on the trip to share. If you're on the trip, please jump in with a comment. And she's having connection issues. But if everybody is done sharing, we'll have a toast. Toast to everybody who's here. Hopefully you have a glass of wine.
We finished our bottle.
It's fun to see you all. And maybe we should just say goodnight then, okay?
Great.
Thank
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
Salute.
All right.
Grazie.
Was wonderful. Molto
Thanks, Pam.
grazie.
Sì, grazie
Pam,
mille.
it's fantastic. You make me want to get to Italy as soon as possible, and looking forward to seeing your artwork in person again sometime soon. I don't know if you have any exhibitions planned.
There's
in the works.
some all late last summer and fall, and
You had a
early
lot this
fall.
year.
Yeah, but maybe there'll be another opportunity. Sure.
Great. Well, thank you again. It was fabulous. Thank you to everyone for joining us. And the recording will be available if you'd like to watch it or share with others. Thank you again, Pam Betts.
Coming. I really appreciate it. Yes.
Okay, everyone, have a great evening and enjoy the wedding.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.